was a +2. And then, the piece de resistance, she sent me a little 5-minute sizzle reel of her actual mother doing the actual shot-by-shot opening of this film. And I just was blown away. And then we started working on finding the money and finding the other people, and just kept kind of, I don't know, how long did it take?
From when we met to when?
About a year.
It was like 6 months before we got Rose and JK, and then yeah.
And then once we got
later.
Rose and JK, it took about like 3 to 4 more months to start. If you didn't hear the first part. Once we got Rose and JK, it took about 3 or 4 months to get all the money together and all the resources together and get into production.
So everyone in this room, we've spoken to before about whether or not they are a helicopter mom, a meddler mom. You have older kids. You were already talking about your daughter to us, which she would fit in very nicely in this crowd, and you're a new mom. So have you guys spoken about the differences or similarities in how you parent or parented?
She's still in the tunnel.
Yeah, I'm still just sleep deprived in the tunnel. So
We all need to welcome Rose to motherhood.
You know, I wasn't meddled. I'm the oldest of 9. My mom,
9. Wow.
Yeah, so she was not delivering bagels to my door today. And it was a whole other standard, I think. And I certainly had a lot of fun with my kids. And I meddle in their lives. They meddle back. It's an equal meddling dynamic.
To this degree?
Well, I definitely deliver little packages and I text, but no, because I have so much going on. I mean, I think what happens in the movie is that she's a very nurturing person, a very giving person, and the object of that nurturing disappears, and then it just is kind of all over whoever crosses her path, and especially, unfortunately, on the daughter, because she has that much time to move there and to be there. But it all comes from a place of kindness and love. And so when I saw myself, when I looped it at one point, I thought I looked pretty annoying and crazy, especially I saw a scene first with JK, and he's so solid and so sexy and so loving, and then I'm, you know, and I thought, oh my God, this guy's amazing that he just sits there and listens to this. But I think that, you know, I tell my kids that that's my job to embarrass you occasionally. You just live with it, you know, I'm sorry. But I think it's better to overstep in a way than to not be present. And I had a girlfriend who was saying she was growing so far apart from her daughter who was in middle school, and she didn't want to spend, and I said, well, just, you know, have a brunch every Sunday, say we're all going to go out as a family together. And she said, oh, but she won't want to come. I said, so what? Make her come, you know. How else are you going to stay in touch? You know, that's just the deal. You know, she's in middle school. Come on, she can't finish. It's not like she's in college. And
So she doesn't get a
so,
say.
yeah, so I mean, I'm of that school. And if she's miserable and sits there throughout it, then at least she knows that you care. And I remember my kids saying to me, because I was the mom that always called when there were sleepovers to make sure the other mom knew there were sleepovers and all of that kind of stuff. And they would, and then my kids would be furious. But then they would say, oh, you know, Marissa's mom doesn't ever know anything that's going on with her. So they knew, even though they complained about it, that they knew that it came from a place of love and concern, and they as it was as aggravating as it was, they knew that it was well intentioned, and they appreciated it, I think, ultimately.
But did they know then or now that they know?
No, they knew then because they said Marissa's mother doesn't care. She never knows where she is. She never knows what's going on, and so they could translate that even then. Didn't mean they liked it, you know, but and I think that their brains haven't formed. You need to set certain. Like, I would say to my kids, look, if you're at a party and something comes down, just say that I said you have to come home, or just say if you can't say I don't want to do that, then say that I need you home, or just use me and as an excuse whenever you want. I don't mind being the bad guy, and I'll always come and pick you up, and you know. And then I just started at a certain point telling them all the mistakes I had made, so that they would feel they could tell me, and I encouraged them to make mistakes. And I said that's the best way to find out who you are and what you're about is to make mistakes. So I remember being in the car at one point and my youngest saying, "So did you do crack then?" I was like, "No, I don't even think they had crack when I was doing drugs, but no, I did do them, and they're all illegal, and some of them are really fun, and some of them can kill you the first time out." I mean, we really have serious discussions about this stuff when they were younger because it's there, and you have to do it. But then and then they don't really think you came into existence till they did. So then as they get older and you start to have more freedom and do things, they're like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And I said, "Look, I was this before I was your mother." But they have to get to know you again.
You taking notes?
Yeah.
I want to ask them. It's so beautifully written. Thank you so much. It's so great. It is so great. There's a scene where you go to Jacob and you're just almost kind of pleading for that relationship to happen again, and you see the pain that your daughter felt. What advice would you give to moms? I have a teenager now where it's just so hard when they're in pain and you don't want to get involved in their friendships, but you know that you can advocate and you have the right words sometimes. No, I know.
No, I mean, I think that's the biggest mistake she makes. That's just like the worst possible. But I could totally see the instinct to do that. But that's what I mean. I think you have to just let them go and say, you will be loved again. Do not, answer on the internet. That girl is not by herself when she's asking you those questions about the other girls. I mean, there's certain social media things you can teach them, but in terms of, I think that's just the deal, and you have to be there to encourage when it's over with. But except for getting pregnant or getting someone pregnant, that I just adamantly keep reinforcing, and my son said, "Well, I would do the right thing." I was like, "Yeah, but you don't want to have to do the right thing now," and then also the double standard. I started talking to my boys really early on when the 11-year-old girl started to do things that, they really shouldn't have been doing, and explaining the double standard and saying, "You're responsible for that girl. If she's going to give you a blowjob." Because you start hearing those kind of things, there are girls that start, seriously, you have to be hip to that kind of conversation is going on. And I said, you understand, that girl's reputation is now gone. You're a player, but her reputation is, and so they're not old enough, I would say, to understand that, things like that, and trying to make them respectful of women early on, of girls early on. My daughter, that's the thing about having kids. You know what you have to give your daughter in order to survive and have a chance and everything, but when I had boys, I realized how vulnerable they are, because their socialization process just takes away every sensitive thing. Really, right? It just is horrible, and so you're trying to fight for them, for their minds and for their respect for women early on, because it's everything that they can see now, the sexualization of everything. Yeah, that's another whole topic.
Right, really. So Rose, we know you're a little sleep deprived, but are you, so much of this film, I think, and so many people here were talking about whether their parents were meddling moms or not, and I know Bobby has an older son, so are you taking advice from your parents? Are you taking advice from him? Susan seems like she's got a lot to say, so I think you're in good hands.
I just said stay in your pajamas for the first few months. Do not feel you have to let anybody come to visit. Just hunker down and do not.
No, you were very sweet. This is a big outing for me. I've been, my parents aren't overbearing at all. They're very Australian in that sense, very low key, and when they do say something, I really do pay attention. When they actually do meddle, it's a big deal because they rarely do it. So it's kind of more powerful in that way when they do speak up about something they feel strongly about. But yeah, it's a real challenge, isn't it? The first 3 months, everybody.
You're coming and going.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my brain's really fried. I mean, these interviews I've done today are pretty bad.
Okay, let's open it up to our lovely moms and friends. Who's got a question for our panel, our lovely guests? Really? You're going to be
I
shy?
do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Melanie. I write for Jersey Family Fun. So I have a lot of people in my family that are just like what you wrote. And I love the shout outs. Homedale Elizabeth. I saw that. My father actually grew up like 3 blocks from where your character grew up. So very exciting, very local. Did you choose Susan because she's a Jersey girl?
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
No, I chose Susan because she is Susan. And I pictured her from the beginning. I only dreamed I could get her to play this part. I had no idea. I was so frustrated one night because Joy and I had a lot of trouble getting this movie made, as you guys can imagine. And I was just, I think I was home crying. And Tammy trailers were on TV, and I was just like, damn it, I'm gonna just have to send her a letter, aren't I? And so I wrote a letter to her agent and just kind of begged. It was cold and unsolicited, and her agent liked it and sent it to Susan, who liked it. And but yeah, for all the reasons that she's so incredible in the film, she's warm, maternal, sexy as hell, and also also that, and also an unbelievable humanitarian. I mean, in real life, she's kind of Marnie on steroids, actually. So yeah, I mean, just such a giving, generous person, you know, and helping people, and so I'd like to think that was part of the connection, and yeah, just so grateful, really.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You got it. You got it.
Did you like your characters? Did you like your characters?
I did. It was so fun, you know, because I'm really playing Lorene, this lady here. But it was wonderful because she was right there all the time, so I could ask her any questions, and she was incredibly candid and open. So it was, as an actor, it's a really a pleasure to have that on set all the time. It's scary. Yeah.
You ladies are obviously extremely empowering to everyone here. That's why we're here. So you play so many roles. What do you think has been maybe your bravest moment throughout life, whether it be in your career or your personal life? And how can you align it with this movie?
I think the bravest thing anybody can do is to be intimate with another person and to really connect with someone and surrender to that. And all the films that I've done have been love stories in that sense, because I think that's empowering. If you can be vulnerable, you become stronger, right? So, I mean, doing a film like Dead Man Walking and wearing no makeup and a bad hairdo with terrible clothes, that's also a little difficult. Tammy was really, you know, going into work and looking worse than when you went in is also very upsetting. You know, so from a vanity point of view, or really if I have to be, that's tough. But I think it's, I'm just always interested in connection and relationships, whether it's between a woman and a kid and a client, or 2 women and the hunger, or a man and a woman, any kind of, I think that's what life is. Everyone's looking for connection, and to do stories about connection. And that's why I think even young guys have liked this movie. It hasn't really been a chick flick. It's been something that, you know, my son said he would highly recommend, and he doesn't do that very often with my films, to his friends, and his friends were there and they really dug it, you know, and so I'm hoping that it just is one of those films which is so difficult to find, where you're laughing, and something happens that is unexpectedly moving. Is my favorite kind of film to watch and to be in, and where you can have a conversation afterwards at lunch or dinner or whatever, that is kind of, that you take it with you, you know. I like that, and I think this is an old-fashioned film like that, and Lorene was really amazing to give us a context, but also to just fill the movie with all these great women that are so funny and were so much fun to work with, right? It was just all the characters in it were capable and funny and improvisational and rooted in reality instead of commenting on it or being too big, and that's really unusual.
Thank you.
In the back, yeah?
Hi, this is a question for Rose. Working on this film with Susan, a film about motherhood, was it a crash course in motherhood for you? Was there any lessons you learned?
What not to do.
Is there something Susan taught you that has really stuck with you?
I mean, working with Susan was a dream come true. She's such an icon, and I've grown up watching her work and always found her so inspirational and soulful in her performances, and so it was really kind of surreal to be playing her daughter. It was really incredible. We have a great mutual friend, so we had met before, which was really lovely too. But in terms of the motherhood, you know, I guess this is further along in the stage of a relationship between a parent and a child, whereas I'm just like, you know, still in such early days. But I must say, I did a film called Neighbours, and which is a very different film to The Meddler, but leaving the house takes a really long time when you've got a little baby. There's a scene in that film where we leave the house and it takes 2 hours, and it does take 2 hours because you have to bring so many things with you.
And then they go to the bathroom again.
Yeah.
And when you're there. You're
Right when you're there, they take another shit.
That's why I had to bring my 4-year-old to the set way too many days than was appropriate.
But you can. That's the whole point, right? I mean, and you're making
You can if you're making a movie with incredible women like this, but.
Hi, I'm 7 months pregnant. What is the one thing you wish somebody had told you before you gave birth to your first kid?
The first 6 weeks are pretty hard.
And
it
then
really
you
tells you that.
and go to work.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a kept secret. I was very lucky in terms of nursing, but I think that there's a couple things that people said to me. First of all, that don't be shocked if you don't love your child immediately. That's like a well-kept secret, that you may love them in a kind of primitive way, but it's great the way it's spaced out, that every time you're ready to just be over it, they come up with some new little trick, you know, and some beguiling smile. Or I remember the first time Miles had just, I think he was 10 months old, and I was nursing, and he bit my nipple at the and then touched my face, and I was like, and I don't think that you understand. I think that you think you're going to bond full force immediately in a very specific way, and sometimes it takes longer. And also nursing can be really, really challenging, and you know, every baby doesn't respond the same way, and then you get the mastitis and it hurts or whatever. And I think the first time out, you just think, well, if you choose to nurse, not everybody does, and then the relationship with the pump becomes really a nightmare. You know, you think, oh, this is great, and the pumps have gotten smaller to smaller. The first time, you know, I had a unit in my house that looked like a iron lung that I had to rent from Bigelow's, because they're the only ones that had it. This was 30 years ago, and it was a major noise. It was, you know, now my daughter just like both things at the same time. This little tiny machine, and she had a whole system in place, but. I think that that's something that you're not prepared for necessarily, that it could be a little bumpy and you're exhausted, and you know, what I always tell any woman who's telling me they're thinking of having a baby is that no matter how involved or well-intentioned your daddy baby or husband is, it is up to you in the beginning. There's no way that they can possibly. Is this your first?
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry. But you know, it's going to be you for the beginning. That's the way it's designed. There's just no getting around that. And at the same time, be happy you caught one. It could be the only one. How do you know? You know, enjoy it. Try to have the best time you can with the birth and everything else, because it's a pretty crazy sci-fi adventure. And try not to think you have to be perfect.
I have one question, because we forget, because you're so hip and cool and young and sexy, but you are a grandma. So do you meddle at all in that way?
It's so much easier to be a grandmother than it is to be a mother. Oh my God, it's just like you realize the constant worry that you have as a mom, or just at least anticipating that you have as a mom that you don't have as a grandma. And when something happens or she gets a cold, I'm just like, yeah, well, she'll get over it. It's fine. You know, I mean, like, it just doesn't. It's so much easier. And I understand now this urge to corrupt that you have when you look at your grandchildren. You think, yeah, she can't have chocolate. Just wait till she comes to my house. I'm gonna ingratiate myself by breaking every rule and having her back at the end of the weekend. That's gonna be, she's already spent some time with me at my house, and she likes me a lot. She's a very wild, fierce, funny, really funny kid. And she'll be 2 in August, so not quite 2, and my daughter's having another baby in the fall. And yeah, it is exciting, a boy this time, and thank God, because another girl would have to follow Marlo, it would be a pretty tough act to follow. But I'm not gonna be around for that birth, I don't think. I'm gonna be working in LA, and I was there for her 36-hour home birth, and 6 weeks afterwards, and she was like that, well, we decided we don't want so many people around. Thinking, really, with another kid, you're crazy. You're gonna have to find something.
Do you think that's like her little sign of like, we need a little space?
Well, they already knew they needed some space. When I was with them in California, I was there for the first week, and then they found me this little Airbnb about a 15-minute walk down the street, and I would walk over like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then walk back at night, and it was in this fabulous neighborhood, but my little B&B was like in a crack house. And when I got there, I was just like, oh my God, but I was hardly ever there, and it was a good level of humility, little lesson in this one room. My bed was touching the other wall, the garbage cans were under my window, the pickup was every day, the doors of the building wouldn't close. I mean, it was insane. Gray, all gray, but sweet. Anyway, so this time I'm really jealous that I'm not gonna be around. I don't know how.
You might be. They might call you.
Well, they might call me, but I don't think the people I'm working for in LA are just gonna say, oh yeah, take off a week, It's gonna be hard to find that time, but.
Dr. Susan Sarandon. Okay, we have 2 more questions.
Yes, you.
I just wanted to say I really loved how relatable all of the characters were, both how they were written and how you all acted them, and also being on the grandma end as well. I could relate as what my mom used to be, how I am, how my daughters are with their kids, and how they'll be back. And I think that was one of the really beautiful things about the movie, is how everyone can put themselves in different places in different times of your life, even though the movie is a very...
That's Lorene for sure, that's the script.
Last question. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask about the difference in being a single woman or a widow in LA as compared to New York, because I've done it, so I was interested in, did you find the people more welcoming, or as far as that life as a single
I'm a New Yorker. I've always lived here. One of the reasons that I love New York is that the serendipity is just so thick here. So you can go out on the street and see things you didn't count on, and you don't have to swipe left or right. But saying that, I haven't found anybody yet now since my last breakup.
I swiped right.
Did you? And it turned out well?
Yeah, very well.
Really good.
Yeah.
All right. Which site?
Tinder. Boyfriend. No, I'm divorced. Both divorced. So I tried finally after dating and not finding. Sorry.
Well, my daughter keeps telling me, you just be open. I'm saying I'm open. I've been
His dad
open.
is single.
Huh?
His dad is single.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here we go.
What, he's handsome?
She says he's handsome.
And Jersey.
On that note, we're all going to find Susan a date. What an absolute pleasure. Please spread the very powerful word of mom, we like to call it, about the movie. It opens this Friday. Thank you to the director and writer and producers and Rose and Susan. What a treat. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Everybody stay in your seats. We're being told to please stay in our seats for 1 hot minute.
Okay.
Just a hot minute. Okay.
And my daughter has a mommy blog, Happily Ever After, which is, do you know her? And she's been working really, really hard because she doesn't, I don't know if you guys have help, but she does it pretty much all herself, and she's really like